Guys, welcome to today's webinar. For those that have never been trained by me before, my name is John and I am one of the trainers at Reapit. On call with me today are some of my colleagues from both the training team as well as the product team. Like you saw, that's just popped up on your screen. If you have any questions during this webinar, please throw it in the Q&A box. So what we're going to cover today is we're just going to look at how to set yourself up with Reapit Verify. So if you haven't turned Reapit Verify on just yet, we're going to show you how you can set it up from your Reapit sales platform as well, navigating through Reapit Verify, and of course, setting up the users in Reapit Verify. And we're of course going to verify a vendor as well as looking at verifying your purchases during the whole campaign process. So we're going to cover that today. And looking at verifying vendors and purchases, we're going to look at verifying businesses for both a vendor and a purchaser as well. What we cover during Verify and part of our requirements from Austrac is, ladies and gentlemen, we got to look at pre-listings, campaign offers, as well as post-sale as well. So looking at it from an agent's point of view, once you've listed a property for sale, you want to verify your vendor. That's prior to going live on the market. You want to verify your vendor and you want to do a risk assessment on them before making the property live. During the campaign, you run the campaign as normal. Once you've received an offer on a property that you've got live on the market, now is the time to verify the identity of your purchaser. And that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at doing that using Reapit Verify. If you are a Reapit sales customer, we're going to also show you how to do it directly from the Reapit sales system. Okay, guys, jumping in right now, I'm just going to share my training screen. Okay, right now on screen, you should be able to see my Reapit sales platform. So first thing we want to do is, and if you haven't done this yet, you want to make sure that you've turned on Reapit Verify. So if you are a master user in your office, you've got your initials in the top right corner. Clicking on those initials, you want to have the ability to manage those subscriptions. Clicking on Manage Subscriptions, and as you scroll down slowly, you will see Reapit Verify. If you haven't activated it, you'll have a button here that says Activate. Clicking on the Activate button will bring you to this screen where we can also see the pricing involved with Reapit Verify. Then we click on Activate it again, follow the prompts, and then you would have turned on Reapit Verify. To access Reapit Verify directly from Reapit Sales, if you are a Reapit Sales customer, you just come to the top left of your screen to the 9 dots, which is the app switcher. Clicking on the app switcher, you'll be able to see that Reapit Verify is there, as well as any other apps that you use as part of your Reapit system. Clicking on Reapit Verify will take us directly into Reapit Verify. And this is what you'll see once you've jumped in. So obviously, as you can see on my screen, I've got cases, but if you've just joined for the first time, you won't have anything here, but we are going to run through cases and cover this screen shortly. But the first thing you need to do for a new person jumping in is coming to the top right of your screen. And this is also for people that aren't Reapit sales customers. You want to be doing this as well. Going to the settings tab. And this is where we have the ability to set up our users, put their roles of permissions in there, as well as create our risk assessment questions and of course, update our risk assessment questions. So the users that you see on screen right now are part of our training system. So these are technically the agents in my office, and you're able to see the agents' names as well as their emails and what roles they play. And we're going to cover roles shortly. To the far right of the agents, there's 3 dots. These 3 dots give me the ability to edit these staff members. So clicking on the 3 dots, going to edit or remove, I have the ability to update the first name, surname, and email, select their role, tick the relevant office they're in, but also down here, as part of Austrac, you've got mandatory CPD requirements to have training, annual training for AML and CTF. Because you are a Reapit client, you actually get this discounted as $79 per user per staff member. So if you do tick this, it will actually become part of your Reapit Learning Academy as well. So you can actually complete that and it will comply with your Austrac requirements. So that's for a user that's already set up. If I want to add another user, I just come up here to the top right, the blue icon, first name, surname, email, select their role, which is what we're going to cover shortly. Tick the relevant office. In this case, it's just JMA Sydney. And then, of course, tick if you're setting them up to have that training. So closing out of this is how we work our staff members in the system. And we're able to see their roles, and the roles give them certain powers in the system. Sales agents, and we're just going to look at the roles and permissions. Sales agents have the ability to do a know your contact, know your business checks on their direct clients of their own contacts and properties. Sales admin have the ability to do it for everyone in the office. The compliance officer has that ability to do the checks for everyone, but also has the ability to do all the compliance stuff as well as the settings that we're looking at right now. So if you're a sales agent and you're not able to see certain things in the settings, that's because you don't have the permission to do so. Compliance officers can do everything that the sales agent, sales admin can do, but they've also got extra permissions to handle compliance as well as settings. Next, we're going to cover is the risk assessment. So the questions that you can see on your screen and that are part of your system so far, these are the standard questions that came through from Austrac's Real Estate Agents Kit. So these questions are in there, they're set. As you can see, the questions are set for certain types of people that we're verifying or certain types of buyers or vendors. So if it's an individual company trust, this question will be relevant to them. As we scroll down, you'll notice that one of the questions is only relevant to a company in trust. It's not actually relevant to an individual. If we need to make any changes or add questions, you have the ability to do that. So up here, we can click on add a question. You can select if the question is relevant for an individual, a company, or a trust. You can fill out what the question is. You can then tick here. If they were to answer yes, is it low, medium, or high risk? If they were to answer no, again, is it low, medium, or high risk? The edit part is just to the right of the questions. You've just got this delete button as well as the edit icon, this little pencil icon. That will give me the ability to, again, go in there. Okay, well, this question is not actually relevant for an individual, but it is relevant if we're verifying a business or a company or verifying a trust. So I can just untick that, save that, and it'll remove that from there. But I'm not going to do that for this. But it's important as well, guys, that if you are the compliance officer, to make sure that these questions are relevant and up to date as per AUSTRAC's requirements. Okay, we've got our risk assessment set, roles and permissions are set, users are set. What I want to do is, if you are a Reapit sales customer, we're going to show you how you can verify both your vendors as well as your purchases directly from the Reapit sales system. If you're not a Reapit sales customer, we'll show you shortly how to do it directly from Reapit Verify. Jumping into my training system. So I'm in my system right now. So as we saw in that slide earlier, as salespeople, we want to make sure we're verifying our vendors before we go live on the market. If there's two vendors, we want to verify both vendors. If the vendor is a business, we want to make sure they're verified. And of course, we want to verify our purchases once we've submitted an offer. So I'm going to go into my listed pending. And if you're a Reapit sales customer, listed pending are your listings that you've listed, they've signed the agency, and they're just pending before they go live. They sit into listed pending until we get the copy of the contract, book in our auctioneers, photos, floor plans, everything we need to do before we have the green light to go live and make it available. So we're going to go into listed pending. I'm going to select 33 Kemp Street in Parramatta. Clicking on this property, I'm then going to go across to my agents and contacts. Of course, we know that our agents and contacts has our vendor listed here as well. I want to create a case directly from here and verify my vendor. Clicking on verify now will do that automatically for me. It will create a case in Reapit Verify for me, but it will also send my vendor Ben an SMS for him to verify his identity. And we've actually got slides to show you examples of what the clients actually receive at the end of this training, guys. So that's a verification I've just sent to Ben. The next thing I need to do as a sales agent is come back to the Generals tab and I've got the risk assessment questions. So because the case has been created, the risk assessment questions are now assigned to that particular case. I can actually complete them directly from Reapit Sales. So I click on the risk assessment just here in the top right of the property card, takes me straight into Reapit Verify, and it lists the questions for me over here on the far right side. So this is the case over here on the left, but these are the questions, and I go in and I answer them honestly. For the sake of the training, I'm just going to go no for everything, but ideally we'll take our time, we'll make sure we answer the questions honestly to our best knowledge of our vendor. Going in there, completing, save. That's now complete, and we can see that the risk assessment based on the questions that we filled out against Ben are low. And you can see that this case has now been created against the property as well. And we can see all the timeline down here. So we're going to hit pause on this one. We're now going to go back into Reapit Sales. That was an example of verifying one of our vendors. We now want to go in and verify a purchaser that has made an offer. So now we're going to go to one of our available properties, property that's live on the market. I'm going to go scroll down. We're going to use 40 Smith Avenue in Bondi. So I've submitted an offer against this property. So I go up here to my offers and contracts, click on offers and contracts, and I can see that offer's in there and it's submitted. Clicking on that offer, I then have the ability to verify it now. So guys, you might receive multiple offers against properties. I know if you've been in my training before and I tell you to add multiple offers against properties, it's the reason why we do it is if you've actually received an offer from a client, it's good to put that offer in there because you can use it as part of your vendor reporting and you can educate your vendor. But verifying the client, I would suggest verifying them once they've actually been approved and the offer is accepted by the owner. So we can verify it straight away from the offer submitted, but once the offer is actually accepted by the owner and Rebecca's actually signing the contract, we then should verify her as well. And then clicking on verify now, we'll then add Rebecca to the case that we've created previously. So if I come across here to our agents and contacts, you will notice that I've also got the verification sent out to our vendor, Danny, as well. And if I come across again to our general tab, clicking on risk assessment, I would have already completed this risk assessment for our vendor when we first listed the property. But now, as you can see, we've got Rebecca there and she's added as a purchaser. If we need to make any changes now to this risk assessment, because now we've added Rebecca in there, we can make changes to these questions. But as we can see, Danny's verified. We're still waiting on Rebecca to be verified. Current risk assessments are low because there is no changes. Rebecca is fine from there. So now we're just waiting on Rebecca to get back to us with that verification. So quick recap, guys. You want to verify your vendors prior to going live. So again, we're using our listed pending stage, clicking on listed pending, scrolling down to the property, or where is it? 33. There it is, last one. Going to agents and contacts and making sure we're verifying our vendor. If you've got multiple vendors against this particular property, you want to make sure that you're tagging them over here and you're verifying them all. If your vendors are in the same contact card, you do have the ability to split them and set them up as separate contact cards, or the other option you do have for 33 Kemp Street, and I'll just use that as an example, going back into Reapit Verify, 33 Kemp Street's over here. I go into that case, and as you can see, I've only got one vendor here, but let's just say this property has two vendors. I want to add another vendor to verify against this property, and this is a question I've received the last couple of days. I can go up here to the add new, add verification, and I can add another vendor here and it will send them out that verification as well. So that's the options you guys do have up your sleeve. And it's simplified for us that we can send it directly from Reapit Sales, or if you want to add more vendors, or if you know that or work out later once you verify this owner that there actually is another owner, we need to come up here, add them. You don't create another case. It's just part of this property, which is 33 Kemp Street. We're adding another vendor to this case as well. Jumping back. So that's the example for our vendor, and our example that we use for our purchaser is we've gone to 40 Smith Avenue in Bondi. We then went into the offers and contracts tab. We clicked on this offer here that we've got against Rebecca, and then we've of course clicked on the verify. And now we're just waiting on Rebecca to fill out her details. She would have got the SMS sent to her and fill out the details. Okay, next thing I want to look at is, let's just say we've sent this across to Rebecca. So clicking back on Reapit Verify, and Rebecca has now come back and she hasn't received it for whatever reason. What we can do is, I'm just going to go through. Let's just say Rebecca hasn't received, where is it? 40. So we've sent it directly to Rebecca. Just make sure I clicked it. Okay, we've sent it to Rebecca. She hasn't received it for whatever reason. What we do have the ability to do is we can actually go to, I'll just go to one of these that are pending. We can go straight into the actual case itself. So I've got Bruce over here. I'll just use Bruce as my crash test dummy. We have the ability to resend him the link. We can copy the link. So copying that link, coming up here and pasting, will show me exactly an example of what the client is actually going to receive. So in this case, the link has expired, but you'll actually be able to see what the client is going to receive. You have the ability to withdraw it, or if you've got the relevant documentation from either the purchaser solicitors, you can actually manually check it as well. So you do have those options here. All right. So what we just covered is how an agent that uses Reapit Sales will use the verify side of things. But I know there's a few people on the call today that are non-Reapit Reapit Sales customers, but they do use Reapit Verify. And I'm also going to use this to show you guys how we can verify a business directly from here as well. So you're just a Reapit Verify customer. What you want to do is you want to come up here and create your case directly from here. Creating a case, you put the property address in there. So I'm just going to put my property in here just to use it as a crash test dummy. I put my property in there. Scrolling down, it's selected to my particular office. I'm the listing agent for this one. And now I want to add a contact against this particular property. So the case is going to be set against this particular address, recorded against my office. I'm the listing agent and I want to add a contact from here. You can add notes if you wish to do so, but we're just going to add a contact here. Okay, the options you have is to create it as an individual. So someone that doesn't use Reapit Sales, you'd go individual, select your vendor, add your vendor's first name, surname, email, and mobile number, have the verification here, add verification, and then we can verify them from there. But for today's example, I'm going to click on company and I want to verify a business and confirm who the actual shot callers are for that particular business. So who has the ability to make decisions in that business. I'm going to go company. We're going to go vendor of the property that we just added. I'm going to go ABN. I'm going to use myself as a crash test dummy here. So I'm actually going to put my ABN. And I'm using a real ABN because I actually want to show you what it does. Usually real estate agents, when we're dealing with businesses, especially as an auctioneer, I experience that at auction when people show up, they want to register and they want to bid and buy under a business. We want to confirm that that business is actually active and the ASIC is legit. Looking at it here, the good thing about Reapit Verify, it does that search for you. As long as you've got the ABN or ACM from that customer, put it over here, it will do the search for you and it'll tell you if it's an active business and if it's actually registered with ASIC. So that's really cool from there. And then we just want to put the point of contact. I'm going to put myself as the point of contact. So just filling out my information here, guys. Put my best contact number. Okay, and then I just want to add the verification and I want to create the case. Right now, it's just adding me. If I need to add another verification, I can, but right now it's just putting my details in there. I'm going to create the case. So that case has been created right now against the property address, and you can see that the verification is against me as a business. The great thing about this system and what it does for you is if I click on the business and I want to view the details, it will do a structure search, and do a breakdown of my business for me. So if I go to the structure side of things, what it has done is it's actually done a Google search, background check on the ABN that we've put in there, so the actual business, and it's come back with the information showing that I'm the only director in the business. There's no non-individuals. If we need to add any non-individuals assigned to this business, we can. We then can resubmit the Know Your Customer. As you can see, we've already done it for me. But if I go back to the summary side of things, it actually breaks down the business for you and it gives you the report. So I can actually view the report. And this is information about the business, breaking it down. Who is the, where is it? There it is. Who's the ultimate beneficial owner of the business and what is their percentage? In this case, it's just me, which then tells me, okay, well, if I'm listing this property, John is the only person that owns this property. He's the only person in that business. And we need to make sure that we're verifying him directly. And that's when we then go in there, add the email, add the phone number, and then do a verification check on that person. If there's multiple people, you will do the verification check on those multiple people assigned to that particular business. So that's a case and that's an example for a business, and that's how we want to be verifying those businesses. Coming back to the case that we've just created, so clicking on 9 Michigan Road. Wait for it to load. As I scroll down, I now want to do the risk assessment, and I want to do the risk assessment directly from here. So I just do start risk assessment and I go through and I answer the relevant questions. Again, do this to the best of your knowledge as per AUSTRAC's requirements. Going through, and one thing I just want to make note is notice how there's 13 questions, but when I verified my vendor and my purchaser as individuals, there was only 12 questions. That's because an extra question has been added to the business, and that's how it works. So if you've got ticked, if you haven't ticked, sorry, individual, it won't actually pull through the question for the individual. I'm going to save, and then right now the risk assessment's low. We obviously waiting for the verification of that owner of that business, and then we can make that property go live. As we scroll down here, it's important to upload any relevant documentation that you get that's relevant to a business, to an individual. I know we're going to be receiving certain documentation, power of attorney, for example, from solicitors. It's and relevant to this particular case, in this case, the particular property. We want to be going in there and adding those here and uploading those documents so they're here for our record as well. As you can see in the case details, it shows you when the case was created and last updated, and you do get a timeline that breaks it down for you. So you can go in there and see who created the case, what was done during that case, and when the risk assessment was done, all that type of stuff. Again, I want to make note up here in the top right, if you need to add another verification, we can go in there and add someone else against this particular property. But if you're a non-Reapit sales customer and you now want to verify a buyer, so this property is live on the market, we've just received an offer and a buyer has bought out at auction, for example. That buyer is buying it as an individual. So we're going to go individual, we're going to go buyer, we're going to put their first name, surname, we're going to put their email, phone number, and we're just going to do a simple basic ID check on them, add that verification, and then the buyer is now going to be assigned to this particular property, and we're going to verify them. So you don't necessarily have to be a Reapit sales customer to be able to use this system. It's designed to help us stay compliant when it comes to the AUSTRAC requirements. Okay, coming back to the Reapit Verify page, You'll notice that all my cases are lined up here, and there's 5 pages worth of cases here. You can see how many verifications I'm awaiting, how many pending risk assessments I'm waiting for, and the total cases. So I can actually click between them and filter down to them as well. You've also got this filter button as well to look at risk level, when it was created, status, and date. Or you can just search. So if you want to search a particular address, a particular contact, you actually have the ability to do that search directly from here. So you have that ability to make that search from here. But of course, you can also see who created it. If you're a salesperson, you can see your own. If you've got the ability to have admin access, sales admin access, you can see other people in that office. And of course, the compliance officer can see everything here. All right, guys. So quick recap. Now that we've jumped into Reapit Verify, we created the case up here. We put the property address in there, selected office. We selected the listing agent. We added the contact details to verify. In that case, we actually added the company. If you've got a property under a trust, you've also got the ability to record the trust here. I don't actually have an example of a trust, so I'm not going to do one for you, but you've got the ability to create and add the trust here. And it's the same if somebody's buying a property in a trust, we can actually put them in as a trust buyer and then fill out the relevant details of the trust, including the point of contact of that trust. Of course, up here, the documentation. Once a trust is created, the solicitors and of course the accountant that created that trust will have all the relevant documentation, and we want to make sure we're uploading that for our records to have here so we are compliant as well. Notice that I'm getting the red warnings. If you don't actually fill it out, you can't proceed. So you don't need to make sure we're filling everything out for us to then proceed. Verify now stays here. So all these properties will stay here for compliance purposes. The properties will then go live. They'll sell. We do what we normally did prior to last Wednesday, the 1st of July. But except now, we're making sure that we're using Verify to record everything and add those details here against those clients and make sure we're not missing anything as well. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So we're just going to do a quick recap of what we've covered so far. We've had a look at how to set up Reapit Verify. We looked at navigating Reapit Verify as well as setting up our users. We looked at verifying our vendors, and vendors verification is included to individuals as well as businesses, and of course, if you've got a family trust. We looked at verifying a purchaser, an example of doing it both in Reapit Sales as well as doing it directly in Reapit Verify, and looking at what we'll do if the purchaser is a trust or a business. So guys, if you do want any more hands-on training moving forward from myself or my team, that's our contact details via that email. We're happy to run more training for you moving forward. This is only the second webinar of this series, so we are going to catch up next Tuesday again for another recap of Reapit Verify with one of my colleagues. And we're also going to run you through. So if you've got staff members or teams that missed out on today's webinar and you think that it would be beneficial for them to show up to a webinar to watch and see best practice on using Reapit Verify, how to make sure we're set up correctly. If they're Reapit sales clients and they're not too sure on how to use it, I highly suggest inviting them to that next webinar as well.